Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grafana OnCall community call. It's a live recorded call with the core team where we discuss OnCall project, new updates, feature requests, technical details, and future plans with the community. If you watch this call in the recording and would love to join the next call, welcome. To do that, please go to our GitHub, Grafana/OnCall. Discussions, there will be a topic with the sign up link. Today's agenda is technical in the beginning and not as technical at the end. So if you are not deep in Django and Python, stay tuned. Not the whole call will be like that. And if you are interested in Django and Python, that's your time. In the beginning, Matthias will give a talk about how to build integration with messengers and OnCall, especially focus on Mattermost. Today we kickstart Mattermost development driven by community. I hope since this issue got so many upvotes, community would love to join us developing Mattermost support. So based on this talk Matthias will give, it will be possible to do. After this, today we will announce alpha testing of a secret feature, not a secret if you check our source code and PRs, but actually a secret feature which we've been working on last few weeks. It's huge. It will change how scheduling in OnCall will look like in next versions. So Matthias, thanks for that. He will also demo this feature and will tell you which flag to enable this feature in your environment. Next topic is we would love to talk to you how to use OnCall. So if you have something to say, something you expect OnCall to be before you run it in production, please share. We're really interested in how to use OnCall. We see noise in GitHub. We see questions about it, but we would love to hear more about how to use it. And at the end, Q&A, so we could discuss anything you are interested in about OnCall. Let's start. Matthias, your turn.
Thank you. Let me see if I can share my screen. Share screen. Right. You should see my screen now.
Yep.
And hopefully you're seeing my slides. Let's see. As Matt just mentioned, I will give a quick introduction to how to implement in a simple way, let's say, new ChatOps integration for messaging backend, so you can get alert notifications in your ChatOps tool of preference. The idea is to start working on the Mattermost implementation next, so this will help anyone outside the project to hopefully help or at least get an idea how things work, and eventually integrate any other messenger we want to have in our backends. So this talk won't be too technical, just not to scare anyone. It's a high-level introduction on how the implementation works. This was introduced, all this framework is too generous, but all this architecture was introduced when we implemented the MS Teams integration for the cloud support. And it can be reused for other backends. So the idea is exactly that, make it simple to introduce new backends in the future. And right now, there are several integration points working, like you can get notified when creating or updating an alert or updating an incident log. And you can get messaging backends added as notification policies for a user. You can plug your custom templater system for the backend. And link users and channels for the messaging backend, so you can choose where or who to route an alert through these backends. So as I said, the Microsoft Teams implementation we have working in cloud uses all this idea. There are some limitations because this is still a work in progress. There are a lot of things that can be done better. We have some to-do list to work on this stuff. So hopefully in the future, things will be even simpler. Of course, when you try to work with all this stuff, you will need to know some Django, Celery, and also the API provided by the backend you want to integrate with our project. So there is a lot, let's say, of knowledge you still need to have to work and implement this, at least all of the tools we are using. Right now, the work in the front end, all the UI for these messaging backends is not generalized. So you still need to do some React work to display the options or make the backend configurable in the front end. And we have a few integration points we still want to work on, like adding the backend as a general escalation chain option, and also get notifications for schedules changes or on-call shifts being in progress and that kind of things. But hopefully it will be coming soon. An alternative to implement a chatbot messaging backend will be a webhook. We already have webhooks, so you could plug a webhook triggering some kind of alert in your chatbots or messenger. But in fact, you can see that in the Mattermost issue, there are some new comments about how to do that for Mattermost, which is nice. But if you have the backend integrated to our messaging backends, you also get the option to interact with the alert and know which user is doing what the action in that case. So you can acknowledge or resolve an incident directly in your tool, as well as you can plug this notification system into our existing infrastructure. So you can route incidents based on the on-call schedule or depending on escalation chains, etc. So that's the case. More in the technical side of things, the high-level required steps to get something working are mainly these 7 steps. We will have a new Django app for the backend, the messaging backend. The messaging backend is a class you need to extend by inheriting from the base messaging class, which you need to implement a few methods. And then you can have custom models for your user or channel, if there is that concept for your backend, and have a way to link this backend user with our on-call user, or also to register the channel with on-call, so you can choose channels when triggering notifications. And then you need to define a few tasks, Celery tasks, which will be sending the messages to the ChatOps backend. Optionally, you can, or you may need to keep register or keep track of those messages you send to the backend, so you can update later the message when the alert is updated for some other channel. So you need to keep things in sync. Some cases you will have a bot, depending on backend, which the user will be interacting with, and that bot will trigger API calls to our backend in on-call. So you may need to implement some views to handle those updates in our side. As I said, there is some work to do in the front-end side to add the UI to configure things. And optionally also, you can add some custom templating, which is another class you need to implement to help on-call render the alert in the way the backend needs to. Okay. So that's a high-level idea of the required work. To get a better idea, there are two simple examples right now that you can check in our repo. One is a simple email backend that uses the Django SMTP implementation. Another one is a toy example I was playing with to have desktop notifications as the backend of this messaging backends example. So I can give a quick look to that. I can show you. In the repo, you have the code for the email backend. As you can see, the email backend implementation is just this class, which extends the base messaging backend. And we have some metadata for the backend and a way to serialize the user to get a representation for the user that we can show in the front end. And the most important method, which is the notify user method, which just uses the existing email template that we have in our source code, because there are work in progress to support email in some other ways. And we render the email and use the send email function from Django itself. So it's really simple. If you add this to your messaging backends in the settings, you will have, this is my local host, my local running service. You will notice that by just registering that class as backend, you will have an option here, email. And this email backend will use the email registered for the user to send the notification. So for example, I have this integration here, which when triggered will send an email to the user on call, which is a temporary email I have here, where I don't have any emails. So if I trigger an alert and things work, as you can see, I also have the desktop notification example working because it's triggering some incident. And here I get the incident in my email, which is using also the email templater as defined here. Email, incident number, and the message. So there you can see. That's one thing. So that's a really simple email backend, which doesn't have any UI, and it just allows to register a notification policy per user. So you get notifications, individual notifications when the user is on call, or if you explicitly set the user to be notified, it will use that notification policy as defined in the profile. On the other hand, we can define a more complex backend. In this case, this is the other example, which, as I mentioned, it defines a separated app, Django app, in our project, and defines several things. On one hand, there is the backend class, which we need to register the backend. There are some listeners to the signals we trigger on call. Particularly, we're interested in the signals that are triggered when an alert is created, or when an alert group is updated, or if we need to update the log. We have listeners for all those three signals. I added some comments here to get a better idea of what's going on, but the main idea is to trigger asynchronous tasks via Celery to process any information we need from the alert and send the notification to the backend, to the messaging backend in this case. So we have the Celery tasks, which almost match in the listeners we have in the other module. So I have some comments here also. And all this implementation is using the notification, the desktop notification system, so you can get an idea of what's going on while you test things. So it's nice to get some visual. So I don't want to get into much detail here, but there is some code, some comments, and that's the idea for the backend. And to plug things, I didn't mention, but you need to add the app you are working on to installed apps in Django setting, as well as register the backend in our extra messaging backends. Right now, you need to provide the class, the path to the class, and also an unique ID. This is something we need to improve, but for now we have numeric IDs that we need to make sure are unique and don't clash with any other backend. So that's on the backend. For the front-end side, there are a few components that we need to update if we want to make it configurable in the UI. I'm not an expert in front-end, so I was able to do this. So it's not really that complex, but it's a manual work that we need to improve in a coming future. So for example, you need to define some, include these items in the templating system if you want to provide custom templates for your backend, or you need to add a connector in the alert rules container if you want to provide this connection here, for example, or what else? Or the channels section, it's also some separated section in pages. Thanks. Yeah, I don't know how you call this on React, but let's say module. So we have some backend and some frontend, and that allows us to, for example, have this integration working with our, I call it desktop backend. I implemented some example view where you can choose a channel. This is just something decorative. It's not really choosing any channel because there are no channels for these notifications. And if I trigger a notification here, you will see that it will post the alert as a notification. We post the update in the incident log also here, as well as ping my user using also this backend. So if I trigger the alert, you should see here, this alert was sent for demonstration purposes. The channel is the one I choose here, and I get all the updates in the log about what's going on. And I also get this ping here, which is inviting my user to look at the incident because I explicitly request that. So as well, if I change the status of the alert, for example, I resolve it here, I should get the notification that the alert was resolved by my user. Yeah, it's a bit noisy. Here you have. And you can customize how the alert looks in the templating system, which is also plugged in here for desktop. So taking this as a base, it should be relatively simple to get something working for a start for any other backend, if you know how the backend works, because of course you need to know the other side of the equation in that case. But that's a quick example of how things work right now and how you can plug your own backend and how we plan to keep improving this to plug future backends. So back to the slides. Coming soon. Well, in the GitHub, in our GitHub project, you will notice that there are requests for all these backends: Mattermost, Discord, Google Chat. You can file a new issue if you think we are missing any other backend. Our current plan is to start working on the Mattermost implementation. I will probably be starting some initial branches to define the skeleton for the messaging backend. anyone can help and contribute and give thoughts or opinions. The idea is most of the development will be published through this issue or any other issue, but probably related to the Mattermost request. And yes, if anyone wants to help, you can ping us in our community Slack channel and add your comments or suggestions to the existing issues. And yep, that's our plan. That's all from me in this topic. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Hopefully I could explain how things work.
It's hard to imagine how to explain better. You made an example of PR, and looks like it's should be pretty straightforward how to start. Thank you a lot for it.
So.
If you would like to join, so it's our experiment. We want community to drive connection between OnCall and Mattermost. So if you would like to join, please join our Slack and let us know. Me, Matthias, everyone else from the OnCall team are there, and we will coordinate and define how do we work together on making this thing real, because looks like the desire for Mattermost is pretty high. Okay, any questions? Maybe questions will go to the end, otherwise it will be hard to manage the time. So in this case, I propose to go to the next topic, which is our secret scheduling issue, which is pretty easy to figure out which one exactly. But finally, we are ready to invite you to alpha testing of our web-based on-call scheduler. And Matthias volunteered to show you how to enable this thing and how it looks. Please, back to you. We don't hear. Mute, still mute, not mute. Oh, still mute. I think yeah, sorry about that. Please try.
Very good.
My fault.
Okay, let me share again. Share screen here. Share. Okay. Here you should see my on-call running instance is the same it was before, but I don't have anything new here. The idea is right now the schedules backend on frontend is behind a feature flag because it's still a work in progress, but you can gain early access if you enable a feature flag that you should be able to enable in your M file. Oops. There you go. If you set the feature web schedules enable to true in your M file, you should be able, after restarting your service, you should get a new tab here next to the existing schedules, enabling the schedules alpha tab. There you go. So you will have a new tab here that you can start playing with and getting a feel of how the new schedule system will work. I have a few testing schedules, but let's create a new one. This is a web configure schedule. We need a name, add schedule. And this will display the new UI where you have a section for the final schedule, which is the result of calculating how rotations and overrides interact with each other. The rotations, which are exactly that, and the overrides. So how it works. You can add a rotation by clicking in the rotation lane. For example, here, you get a dialog where you can define how the rotation should work. Particularly, we can have a rotation with different user groups interleaving with each other daily. So as you prepare the rotation, you will see a preview going on in the backend, in the behind the scenes here. So you can see that I'm rotating these two users daily here, and I can create this like this. You will notice that users in the schedule are referenced in this section where you get the current time as well as the users' time zones, depending where they are and who is on call in this moment. You can add different layers to your schedule. So for example, we could have a second layer, which will override the existing one for the weekends, for example, starting on this next week. There. So you can have a different user on call during the weekends there. So second layer has a higher priority than layer one. You can browse the different weeks and different layers. You can have a explicit override for some other day, which will override anything there. And yep, that's a quick look of how things work. You can start playing with it and give us any feedback or issues you notice while using it. It's really nice to work with this new schedule system from our experience, at least, but I'm sure we are missing some edge cases or use cases that we don't have. So it's nice to get feedback from people outside us. This is the listing UI where you will also get a preview of the schedule for the current week and notice who is on call at this time. So yep, feel free to ask anything to the team. We are all working to make this available for everyone soon, hopefully.
Thank you. A lot of work in this feature. Thank you for the demo. Just to highlight, could you please show one more time the exact feature flag our alpha testers need to add to their environmental variables?
Sure. Give me a second. We should probably add some documentation of that. But so this is the feature flag.
Feature web shadows enabled. Yeah.
It should work for all our existing releases because, as far as I can tell, it's everything merged and deployed everywhere.
Yeah, we secretly deployed new features. Kidding. Thank you. I also want to say that there's a reason why we share this information about this feature flag. It's because we really want to make sure that your exact schedule will work in our editor, because on-call schedules could be different. We talked with you, multiple members of our community. We asked questions about how do you expect to organize on-call schedules, and they are very, very different. Some of you want to be on call only in the daytime. Some of you want to be on put on call engineers like every week. Somebody wants to have a control about every hour within a day. So it's a very, very tricky task in terms of UI, backend, multi-time zone, how to make this instrument not like huge and like with millions of features where it's easy to confuse, but something make it simple and working for everyone. And as part of this demo, I want to show how do we organize our own on-call schedule within the team using this instrument. Let me share my screen. That's a real schedule we have in our team. And as you see, like, don't touch this exact schedule because we rely on it. And here I want to highlight a few features. First of all, while building this on-call schedule editor, we focused on those users who have time zone distributed teams. So here in the top, you can find the list of users who are on call. And for each user, it's very easy to understand what's the local time. For example, for me, it's 5:30 p.m. And I'm out of working hours. And for other team members, we have pretty time zone distributed team, and their time zones very distributed. This is our final schedule. So we have 2 rotations. One is for Europe, one is for American time zones, and we have additional rotation for weekends. And of course, we have overrides because we're all real people. Sometimes we need to back up each other. Here also, I want to highlight that you see that time slots, they are marked, like colored. And those lines, they mean outside of working hours. So it should be really comfortable for you to put somebody on call. And we wanted to give you a feeling, is this on-call slot comfortable for your colleague if this person is in different time zone? So we wanted to put, like, to remove as much time zone calculations off your shoulders as possible. Hope you'll find it comfortable. Yeah, please try using this thing. And if you find any issues, like it's impossible to put somebody on call, or you find some annoying bug, or you or your colleagues don't like something specific, right thing to do, go to GitHub, OnCall, and GitHub down, and issues, open your issue and tell us, please, what doesn't work for you. Because this feature will be in open source. So I think it will be nice if you will help us to make it better. And thank you, Matthias, again. Next topic. Is there anyone on this call who is ready to share how to use on-call in your org? Please let us know. I will let everyone to unmute, or maybe type in the chat first. Yeah, please type in the chat if you would like to share your experience. And if you have any questions, please also type in the chat. So it's Q&A, and we're also asking to share your customer stories. So I see. Do you want to unmute yourself and tell?
Yeah,
everyone?
sure, Mate. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Hi.
So yeah, hey. So right now, effectively, what we're doing is we are using this as the human-initiated alerting system, right? So Grafana OnCall is basically the last mile to the end user who is on, rapid response. And then whenever a teammate needs immediate help, they basically fire off a webhook, and then the webhook basically routes the alert to the proper party. And we're doing this because we still need to try to understand how to automate the machine-generated alerts and the alerts that the human beings are channeling to the on-call party will help teach us basically over the next couple of months what we need to automate in terms of, machine-generated alerting. One thing that we really need to do is make it so that when an acknowledgement is fired off, we can basically fire off a webhook in response, right? So like right now, what I'm doing is I'm pulling the API, and I have to go through the alerts group API to get the correct status on the specific alert. And like, there's no unique identifier for the alert in question, right? It's always like off by 1,000 milliseconds. You know what I mean? For the time of the alert's creation is always like maybe like 1,000 milliseconds off from its identity in the alerts group API. So we pull the alerts group API, and then I have to like calculate the time and see if it's less than 1,000 milliseconds in order to say, okay, yeah, that's the right time for this alert. And do you understand what I'm saying, Matti?
I think not very much actually.
Okay.
Does
So
anybody
when you
have idea about this delay? Yeah.
when you want to ask the Grafana cloud or the Grafana OnCall API about an alert that got fired off, like its status, right? If you go to the alert API, right, and you ask for, the title of the alert or your unique identifier for the alert, right? It tells you the status of the alert when you fired it off, right? Not its current state of the alert, right? So in order to get the actual current state of the alert, you have to pull the alert group API. Now that's fine, but there is no unique identifier that's common from the original alert API to the alert group API. There is something called created time, like what is the time that the alert was created, but it's not identical, right? It's not the exact same time. You understand what I'm saying? It's always like off by just 1,000 milliseconds, right? So
I got it. You need to make the matching between
exactly. Or if you can fire off a webhook, they allow me to fire off a webhook when the acknowledgement or the resolution is hit by the technologist who's receiving the alert, then I can just fire off a webhook and I don't have to pull your API, and you know what I mean? But I assume you want to fix that too, right? but nevertheless, like that's my problem right now is I'm kind of programming around that issue. It's not beyond me to do it, right? It's easy enough to do it, to automate it. But I feel like it's something that other people are going to want. Like, what I want is I want it so that when someone hits acknowledge, it fires off a Jira ticket, right? And then all of the work can be moved over to Jira.
Thank you for sharing this use case. May I ask you if you are the person who opened the ticket? We have a ticket like that? Yeah, cool.
I don't know how many people there are in the world using Grafana OnCall, so I'm probably responsible for about 50% of your tickets.
We're really happy. Happy to see you here. Actually, thank you for those tickets, and thank you for this exact ticket, because it raised a discussion within our group, at least, that we understood that we probably need to rework webhooks to make them like subscribable to different events in the system, not only to alert group creation. That's not in a short-term focus of a group, but we at least I clearly understand that we need to do something in this. Like webhooks are not ideal, and we need to improve them. So I see Michael and Vadim agreed. So usually when those guys agreed, it's getting done pretty quick. Thank you. And do you use it? Do you use it for production already? So for person issued, in production. Cool. Thank you. I see an answer in the chat. Okay, I see next answer. We're trying to use OnCall. Do you want to unmute yourself, Raja, and tell us?
Hi.
Yep. Hi.
We already have some automation for the alert management system currently, using our own inbuilt alerting from the alert manager from Prometheus. We also have the on-call scheduling these things from Iris. So we are trying to remove those, many products and try to, use a single one. So that's when we looked into on-call, and so we are currently running it in the development environment for it. So and also we saw that this on-call thing, we cannot do it from the open source one, as it is we need to use the cloud provider. So is there any way to integrate the Twilio, the subscription that which we had, to the open source one? And also raise some tickets regarding the what do you say, this the capturing the response from the webhooks, which not just based on the acknowledgement, I want to, based on the response of the webhook, I want to do the further escalation. You said that it can be a feature request.
Interesting. More feature requests to webhooks. I didn't expect webhooks to be so popular.
Yeah, because based on that, we can trigger more automations. If the automation fails, then we can trigger another escalation chain based on the response. So it doesn't always, actually we are here right now. The webhooks is the loose endpoint. We just call it. We just get the response, whether it's 200 or 4 or 503, whatever it is. But we don't capture any response. If it is sending something back, we are not, reading that or making use of it.
Yeah, as well as I remember, I'm not sure. It was checking at least. Do you use Slack integration?
Yeah, we use Slack integration. Yes.
Cool. I'm not sure. Just inviting you to check. Probably we publish to Slack thread the response, so at least you can see it.
Yeah, the response it is it's coming as 200 OK or something like that.
Cool. Cool. Sorry to asking. So did you file an issue for this feature request also, so we don't lose it?
I raised it in the Q&A in the discussion channel there, but I did not mention it as an issue.
Yeah, please, if you meet use cases like that, feel free to raise issues. So because when we will start designing webhooks, we will go through all issues related to webhooks, and yes. I hope we will find a way not to build a monster of webhooks at the end.
Yeah.
And the issue you mentioned about Twilio, you're thinking, yeah, I see smiles by David. You mentioned the issue with Twilio connecting your own Twilio account to open source, or I missed something.
Yeah. Yes.
So is it some technical issue? So it just doesn't work for you if you follow the instruction?
No, I haven't tried actually. It was said that the phone feature, the calling through the phone feature, is available on the cloud, Grafana cloud, on-call cloud.
Oh, it's available. So you can sign up your own Twilio and go to open source. So go to your open source
environment variables.
Environmental variables, yes, and there you will find Twilio key and something else, and account ID, I guess, and it should start working for you.
Oh, I'll check.
Cool. Okay. Is there anyone else who has any questions, ideas, feature requests, more feature requests for webhooks? Thank you, actually, Raja, for sharing this experience with us.
Thank you.
Okay, let's wrap up. Thanks, everyone. It was meeting full of content. It will be in the recording in YouTube, and join our next community call. We are very grateful for you using the product and for following the community. Talk to you in Slack. Bye-bye.
Bye.